good, beautiful morning from Stavanger, Norway. Today, Missy and I are going off on an adventure of our own. She's my best cousin friend, and we don't get to spend enough time together, so this time alone is precious. I'm going to let her tell the story of our morning adventure, and then let our tour guide for the day take over, as we visit one of the most beautiful gardens I've ever seen. I'd rate it top 3 with Keukenhof in Holland and Fjord in Canada. And as for our morning adventure, it was the swans. They led us astray. All right, Missy, we're in Stavanger, and we had to walk over here to pick up our excursion. And there's the boat.
Yes.
How long did it take us to get here?
About an hour and 15 minutes because we were being dummies. We got distracted. Then we might have got a little lost.
We saw swans.
We saw swans. That took us in one direction. Probably not the right direction. Then we had to regroup, and then we saw some other things. But we finally made it.
Yeah, with a little help from our friends.
Yeah.
We found these people. They were coming the same way, so we made it. We're here. Woohoo!
It was completely barren. There were no trees, there were no flowers. What we had a lot of was rocks and boulders, some really bad soil, and a lot of cold, harsh northwestern wind that was constantly coming over this part of the island. So all in all, this was a horrible place to spend your time. I actually got some pictures of how we used to look back here in the 60s down in the gift shop with the entrance, if you have a look at those pictures after the food. And when I say it was barren, it was barren. But this place, it was perfect for a man named Åsmund Flor. Åsmund, he was a gardener on a greenhouse or a nursery back in town in Göteborg, and he thought this place was perfect for a cabin for him and his family. So then he could travel a bit away from town, get some peace and quiet, and well, most importantly for Åsmund, out here he would also get a small little break from all of the flowers that he had back in his greenhouse. Could have gone a little bit better for him. But Åsmund, he bought what was back then a 5,000 square meter property, built himself a cabin out here, and spent a lot of time with his family. Downside is that out here was very cold and windy. So Åsmund, he decided he was going to try and make this place just a tiny bit more livable. And he wanted to do this by planting trees. Åsmund, he hoped that if he planted enough trees out here, they would eventually grow up to create a natural shelter against the wind. So Åsmund, he planted roughly 3,000 trees out here, mostly spruce and birch. And I say Åsmund planted those trees. Not really true, because Åsmund, he had a couple of sons. So he did what all good parents does. He put his kids to work, they did all the hard work for him. He was just pointing and directing where all of these trees should go. So that's a definition of child labor, but luckily it worked out. And after they planted all these trees, there was not much more they could do than crossing the fingers and hope for the best. And at the beginning of the 80s, there was a small forest that had grown out here, consisting of roughly 300 trees. So about 10% of these trees that got planted survived. But these trees in turn, they did exactly what Åsmund had hoped they would do. Make this good shelter against the wind. So it became a lot more comfortable to spend your time out here. Unfortunately for Åsmund, around this same time, he also hurt his back. So he was unable to work back at his greenhouse anymore. So he left that over to his older son, Ola, and Åsmund himself, he moved out here to the island on a semi-permanent basis to try and recover. And out here, Åsmund, he loved working with stones. He loved stacking them and making fences, pathways. And Åsmund, he insisted that working with these stones in combination with the fresh ocean air was good for his back. I severely doubt that was true, but that's what he insisted on. And Åsmund, he spent a lot of time out here by himself. And that is because his wife, Elsa Maria, she would rather work with the flowers back in the mainland than to come out here where there's not much to see or do. So Åsmund, in an attempt to try to lure Elsa Maria out here a bit more often, decided he was going to make a few flower beds. He started out with one flower bed, working it out up in our capture garden. We'll see it a little bit later. And one flower bed actually became two. temperature between 4, and that is safe to say that Åsmund, he completely lost control. So that in his lawn, for example, was just covered with flowers everywhere. And eventually Åsmund and Else Maria, they had so many flowers out here that he started their own flower production. He sent these flowers back to the mainland where they sold them, and I'm not happy with this. However, Åsmund, he was also very proud of this garden that had grown out here, so he wanted to show it to people, but didn't really know who. So one summer, Olav mentioned that maybe it could be a good idea to invite all of their customers from the greenhouse out here, so show them around in the garden and try and make a little day out of it. Åsmund, he was quite fond of this idea, and the guests that came out here, they absolutely loved it. In fact, they loved it so much that they didn't just ask, they demanded that this had to become a yearly tradition. Something Åsmund was very happy to make a thing. However, he also got very self-conscious about the garden, and started thinking that it would be embarrassing for him to have guests out here each summer if he didn't have anything new to show each year. So that the garden kept on growing, and as the garden grew, the rumors about this place, they also started to spread. And at the beginning of the 90s, both Åsmund and Olav, they started to receive phone calls from complete strangers who called to ask if they could maybe come out here and check out the garden for themselves. In 1995, Olav and his wife Siri, they decided to open up the garden to the public, putting up the name Flor and Fjaere. Flor for flowers, Fjaere means low tide in Norwegian, and this clever play in words, this is down with the coast. And they were expecting maybe around 250 guests that first summer. And Olav and Åsmund, they were then going to show the guests around the garden, while Siri, she had decided she was going to make fish soup for all of the guests. That first summer there was well over 600 guests that came out here, so a little bit more than expected. And Olav and Siri, they decided to really focus on this garden forward, just to see where this would eventually take them.
Back on the ship, we enjoyed another great sail away as we swapped stories of our day. The rest of the group had enjoyed Fjord cruises, 4 of the 5 in a rib boat. They said it was beautiful and fun, but I think our day was more beautiful. Today is my 60th birthday, and I awoke even earlier than I usually do. But it was very nice having the quiet time to sit on the balcony and watch our pre-dawn cruise into Bergen. I was trying to figure out what kind of vessel we were following until we finally got close enough to recognize an oil rig, although I've never seen one in motion before. As the city lights of Bergen came into view, the moon seemed to be our beacon, leading the way. Dawn was breaking as we reached port and got our day started.
Bergenhus Fortress and royal residence. The fortress contains buildings dating back to the 1240s. In medieval times, the area of the present-day Bergenhus contained the royal residence, as well as a cathedral, several churches, and a monastery. Excavations have revealed foundations of buildings from before 1100, which might have been erected by the founder of Bergen, King Olav Kyrre.
Our fjord cruise started in Bergen, the old part of Bergen, and the scenery started immediately. We had a few wildlife sightings, and then we passed under one of the world's largest floating suspension bridges. The fjord is too deep here for pilings. Occasionally, we went inside to sit, but never stayed long. It was just too gorgeous outside. I could tell you about our fjord cruise, but I'm just going to let you watch it for yourself. Back in Bergen, we got a good view of the hotel we had stayed in the previous week. Much prettier without the pouring rain. And then we wandered through the fish market on our way back to the ship. We thought about grabbing a burger, but instead visited a gift shop where every troll is unique. Back on the ship, we had a few minutes to watch the sights and our fellow cruisers before sailing on to our next port, Iceland. Enjoy the sail away.